Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem.
Alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Dr. Saleem, there is something that I really wanted to discuss with you. It's about child marriage. Now, in our society, it is really preferred that the moment a girl is mature, she is ready to marry, even if she's 16, which is basically a minor age. And to support this, the family and the religious clerics, they say that Islam says the moment you have reached the age of maturity, you're baligh, now you should go out and you should marry. But is marriage just about fulfilling your bodily needs, or is it something about starting a family, and is any psychological, emotional maturity needed? And what is exactly the Islamic take on it?
So, the most important thing that we have to realize regarding marriage is that it is a companionship. It is not a dictatorship. It's not about dominating the spouses. It's in its essence, someone defined a perfect marriage in a very beautiful way. He said that a perfect marriage is one in which two imperfect people come together and accommodate each other's imperfections. So perfect marriage is about imperfections. And to be honest, as far as the age of consent is concerned, the age of marriage is concerned, Islam has not given any specific ruling. Of course, the obvious common sense ruling is that the situation has to be in this form that the consent of the marrying couple must always be there. They must not be forced to do that. And obviously, there are societies in which the fathers-in-law, they support their daughters-in-law, so it becomes a cultural norm that even if the children are young and they're still studying, so it's just like adding maybe another family member to your society. In other societies which are more common, it becomes a norm that the husband or the bridegroom, he must be financially independent, and so that he is able to support the wife. So I think these are all parameters that we have learned from our experience. The only thing which Islam, of course, lays stress on is that marrying off minors and forcing them to marry, or deciding them the marriage for your own self, is something that should not be done. In fact, when one of the people, it came to the Prophet knowledge that someone had wedded off or tried to wed off his daughter to someone, the Prophet asked for the consent of the daughter when she was asked, and she said, "I don't want to marry," and the Prophet annulled that decision. So it should be the free consent of the elders. It should be in a situation in which that companionship element can be provided. It should be in a situation that you live a life of comfort. And as I said, that comfort could be provided by the groom's family. I mean, there were families, there were societies in which the father-in-law would provide for the daughter-in-law. And because of the fact that today the norm more is that the husband or the bridegroom should be the one who should be providing, and maybe something independent. So another thing which is linked to it is joint family system, whether they should live together and live apart. So all this is cultural as well. So you see, a lot of things that have crept into this whole concept is cultural. But the important thing which religion actually, I would say, stipulates is that it should never be a forcible marriage. You should not force individuals to marry. It could be the fact that they might be of marriageable age, but for example, the girl wants to study more. Maybe she wants to be a more established person in life, a more professional person in life, pursuing studies or pursuing some research work or any other higher goal. So that should not hinder in any way. I mean, your marriage should not hinder. Another thing which we find in our Eastern societies is that parents feel that pressure, and that pressure is created by the extended family, and they think that, well, as soon as a girl enters her early 20s or maybe in her teens, later teens, she should be just wedded off, otherwise it will become difficult for them to do so. So that's again a cultural thing that has been abiding in our culture since long. And I mean, any new turn in this culture is normally not accepted. So much so, the consent of the wedded couples there, that's not also taken into consideration. For example, in urban areas, this might be the case, but if you look at rural areas in Eastern countries or in underdeveloped countries, the bride and the bridegroom or the married couple, they figure in the whole decision making much later, once the parents have decided. And a very horrific, I would say, manifestation of this hegemony is that they would not allow any boy or girl to marry for themselves. In fact, these honor killings, they are the horrific extreme of this very concept, in which parents or the brothers, they think that marriage has to be by consent of their own. I mean, their consent should be there before before the two can even marry. So that is a horrible thing, and it still goes on unchecked. Even just a few days ago, I was reading in the newspaper that a brother had killed his sister and his brother-in-law because they had married without the consent of the family. So this is a very, very a touchy subject. I think we have to be very mature in handling it. Unnecessary pressure on the youngsters makes them feel unwanted. I see so many young girls, as soon as they are, let's say about 25, 26, which is a normal age today to get married, and they would like to do something more, and they feel the brunt of that pressure. They feel as if they are unwanted in their own homes, and their own parents think that, well, time is moving fast and they have to do something, and all hell will break loose if they don't do so. So the parents have to be very, very aware to the situation, see that there is a method to everything. So yes, there are certain families in which you can wed off your girl early. Why? Because the boy is going to take over the business of the father. So in families in which trading and business is common, at times you can marry off early because the boy does not need to find a new job. He is just going to sit with his father. And on other occasions, of course, he has to find a new job. Not only that, he has to settle. And let me give you another scenario. When you live in outside of Pakistan and some other countries, you see what happens is that the boy and the girl, they are entering their professional life, and both of them have got, for example, some very good new offers and some new jobs, and they're living in the same country but living apart in two different cities. So, I mean, one is not willing to leave his job, and she's not willing to leave the other. So I have seen marriages in which, for example, I know a couple in Germany living some miles apart. I mean, it's like not some mile, in fact, it's like 100-mile distance. So what they've done is they have married, but they come on weekends, or one weekend the wife comes and spends time with the husband, the other weekend the husband goes, because this is the only practicality. Both have got very good jobs, but they cannot leave their cities to go to the opposite. So you see, these are a number of constraints that have resulted, and the most important role here has to be by the parents. They must never pressurize their girls. Girls are like pearls. They are like blossoming flowers. And if you try to compress them, it's going to have a very telling effect, a very deep psychological effect. And that is, I mean, I see it. I mean, they don't say it with their words. The parents, the more, I would say educated parents, at times they don't say it with their words that you have to get married. But the situation and the environment is so that the girl can feel in between the lines that, well, she's not very much wanted. She has to just go out.
So this is a really tragic situation, and getting back, I also knew somebody, and I was talking to them, and she belonged to a really backward area, and she told me that in her family, there is this tradition that only the boys know which girl they're going to marry. And on the wedding night, the girl finds out that who her husband is when he lifts her veil. And she said, I'm also engaged to somebody, and I have no idea who he is. And if I ask about it, then I will be a sinner in the eyes of man and God. So this is truly a really big issue. Now, as you said, that a lot think about age is more of a cultural element. But as you see, the world is becoming a global village. And now the humanism and human rights are trying to be protected. So there is this whole thing against minors, and there are a lot of rules and regulations even in really liberal countries. So when we are taking things from that mindset that yes, this person is a minor, and this is not just something about age. A girl who is 16 years old, 15 years old, and these days now girls are getting mature really early. So she's not mentally, psychologically, emotionally, or even physically ready for starting a married life, even if you don't have kids. But there's this whole new domain, whole new life. So should marriage with minors be appreciated or even allowed?
You see, as I said, it all depends how you define a minor. A minor and underage marriage, of course, that is something that should not be done, because you see, when children are minor, in the technical sense, the way the word has been used, is that when they are not able to take a decision for themselves, and it's basically the parents who take that decision. So if a minor is classified in this age bracket, I would say that should not be done. But you see, I use another term and I say young adults. So that's a more, I would say, communicative term, that when boys and girls becomes young adults, for example, let's say they're in their teens, and they can take a decision for themselves. So again, it's a question of how they would be managing their life if they marry early. So I have seen people get married very early, even in their teens. Both are working, for example, and both are able to support themselves, and both have been, they can really make a living out of it. So it all depends on the situation. And there are other instances in which they would be in mature age, but the family situation, for example, let me give you a scenario that it would be a very good fit of a marriage. I mean, the fit would be perfect if the two get married. But then there comes this question, and that question is, well, my elder sister is yet to get married. And I have 2 elder sisters, and I have 3 elder sisters. So another cultural barrier is that they think that the elder child, especially if she's a daughter, she must get married first, then the next, and then the next. And I have seen this at times that while waiting for the elder child to get married, and if you get a good proposal for the second daughter or the third daughter, you would simply reject that. And that, again, that causes problems. So I think we have to be wise, we have to be broad-minded, we have to think about the situation. This is no rule of thumb that the eldest must get married first. If you get a good proposal for a middle daughter or a younger daughter and everything else is fine, then why not? So you see, the society builds a lot of pressures. It creates unnecessary hindrances. Another thing, of course, you might touch upon it later on, is dowry.
Yes.
Look at what has happened to our society. In our Pakistani society, in our Indian society, there are so many girls, the statistics are alarming. They are not able to get married simply because the dowry is not there. And they are very accomplished girls, very, very fine, decent, but the fact is that this I would say, it's like a thing that has really engulfed our society, and there is a whole demand of the bridegroom's family that, well, unless there is a list of things, unless that they are provided, they will not accept. And this is much more common in a lot of rural areas. And what people then do is they borrow money for this. They are under heavy debt. But the thing is that unless this is done, you just cannot proceed. And then another unfortunate thing that at times happens is that you arrange a huge sum of money, got the children married, and then suddenly after 4 or 6 months you realize that the marriage is not working. So there's another side to the situation, yes. And that is that divorces are happening equally fast. So I think a lot of effort has to be put into the whole situation. Parents have to be wise. The society has to understand that if they are throwing a very lavish marriage in the society, that's going to set a trend.
Exactly.
And that trend is going to, just discourage other marriages which might be, for people or for families who are in the middle class families or lower middle class families.
Especially in a country which is so economically deranged, and we see these demands of dowry and show off and everything more in lower middle classes or middle classes, that they are like, we need this and that, and those people are going much beyond their pocket, much beyond their reach, just to compete with the elites of the society, that we are going to do this, we're going to do that. And inshallah, we'll talk about dowry and other issues touching this topic for today. Thank you so much.